Well, welcome back to my channel, you whiny old bunch of farts. On today's video, we're going to look at the top 10 most overpriced real estate markets in Florida. So first, I got to ask you a question. If you had like $21 million to buy any property anywhere in the world, what would you buy? Has the notion of a medieval castle in the middle of Miami crossed your mind? Because for $21 million, you can buy a freaking castle in the MIAO. I don't know what type of Colombian drug lord idea it was to build a freaking castle in Miami. But let me tell you, you're either getting a castle or you're getting Miami. There's no way you're getting a castle in Miami. Miami and castles are just not compatible. If you have enough money, you can buy whatever the crap you want, but when you go to resell it, that's where the issue arises. And on today's video, we're going to show you 10 cities in Florida, 10 areas in Florida that the prices need to be adjusted because they're overinflated. Now that people got off their COVID fever and they're coming back to normal, they're starting to realize that maybe they paid too much money for some of these properties in Florida. Now, some of these markets are strong and people are still moving to them, and the market is still pending actively. There's a lot of places in Florida where properties will continue to sell, but there's a few places that are starting to raise some red flags because buyers are finding out that what they're buying isn't worth what the sellers are trying to get. So while there are still markets in Florida where the buyers are paying the asking price and houses are on the market for a short time, there's a few places where they blew the bubble too big and it's starting to burst. Interestingly enough, if you've been watching my channel, I've made warnings about all these places. So if you've been watching my channel for a few years, you've been protected from this idiotic COVID fever-fueled buying frenzy. Number one is Immokalee, Florida. A house here should be worth $35,000. However, for some unexplainable reason, people are trying to get over $240,000 for a mobile home that looks like it came directly out of, Immokalee, Florida. Most of the people living in this town are illegal. There are no jobs except for agriculture. However, for some unexplainable reason, despite it being the poorest city in Florida, real estate prices here are absolutely insane. But if you have $500,000, you can buy yourself a house built in the 60s. Immokalee is so dangerous that when people walk to the grocery store, they do it in small little groups because they're afraid of getting robbed if they're walking by themselves. I don't know about you, but if I'm spending $500,000 on a house, I don't need to have my neighbor's chickens running in my backyard. If this was a small town in Alabama, not only would the people be getting paid more money, but they would be paying like a fifth of the price tag for the same home. People ask and consistently get $250,000 for a single wide mobile home on streets that are sometimes not even paved. La madre que los parió. Number two is Mayaka City. Now these dumb hicks think that their properties in their miserable little town that has absolutely nothing are worth millions of dollars. After a recent video where I had a bad experience in Mayaka City because the people here really freaking suck, I had people from the town reach out to me saying, "Hey man, you're hurting our real estate prices." I'm like, no, your town doesn't have real estate prices. The people live here think that because Lakewood Ranch is expanding and growing, that their little hick town that has absolutely nothing and the people are absolutely miserable and suck is somehow going to attract people. This particular property had to have an almost $400,000 price reduction. That's a huge wake-up call right there. This property nearby recently had a $200,000 price reduction. Another property in Mayaka City has been on the market for a little bit, and they also had to go with a price reduction. Now, I don't know what these people are putting in their moonshine in this small little town that makes them think that it's worth a lot of money, but realistically, it's heavily overpriced. While most small towns hope that the suburbs don't reach them, the people out here in Mayaca City, they're like, hey man, burn us down, tear us down, buy 40 acres. And the people are like, no, we're gonna stick to Lakewood Ranch. We're not quite to you yet. The people of Lakewood Ranch want you to know Mayaca City will eventually get out there. We're not quite ready for you yet, so just keep those prices in check for a little bit. Number 3 is Homestead, Florida. You guys remember my $21 million castle at the start of the video? That's in the Homestead area. Now, I don't know about you, but if I'm paying $21 million for a property in Florida, it better be directly on the beach, and there better be a dolphin and a manatee in the pool. And you actually might need that moat full of alligators around your castle in Homestead if you don't want every single boat and ATV on that property to end up in Tamaulipas. But if you have $400,000 laying around, you can get yourself a house from the 50s that's 1,100 square feet in one of the worst inner city neighborhoods in Dade County. This cozy little home in Homestead, Florida has a lot of character. Now, while Homestead has beautiful rural areas, I still believe this market is heavily overpriced. And with many of those buyers coming from other countries and the new laws in Florida taking place, it is unclear whether there'll be buyers in the future that have that kind of money. Number 4 is Bonita Springs, Florida. Simply, the real estate prices here make absolutely no sense. Despite the fact constantly you're dealing with hurricanes and flooding and traffic congestion that is endless during the wintertime, for some reason people think it's an incredible place to move. And to be fair, many years ago, Bonita Springs really was a great place, but the area has grown so much that I don't think it's attractive anymore. It's just too overcrowded, there's too many people, too much congestion. But if you're looking to buy a house here, for $1.5 million, you can buy a tiny house on a tiny lot that was built in the 50s right next to the Imperial River, so you can get new furniture every time that the river floods your home. In the Spring Creek area, you can buy a tiny lot for a mobile home for only $400,000. I think the storm surge here was over the roofs of some of the mobile homes. But it's got Gulf access, Jose. Can you imagine how many cars and people are just waiting to be discovered on your fishing trips into the Estero Bay these days? And I don't mean on Estero Bay, I said in Estero Bay. Like, I'm talking about corpses here. I'm talking about you could go fishing for redfish and end up catching somebody's Volvo. Throw your cast net out there trying to catch some silverbacks and you end up catching a Maybach. Oh wait, I see something black and white down there. Is that a spadefish or somebody's Tesla? Imagine you go out there trying to catch some ladyfish and you end up catching Judge Judy. I want to catch a red snapper, not a red PT Cruiser. But let's say you want to live even closer to the water. For just under $1 million, you can get a 2,000 square foot lot. I'm not even sure that's big enough to build on. The only thing Bonita Springs had going for it was Maria's, and they're not as good as they used to be, so I don't even know what to say about Bonita anymore. Ever since they deported that one cook, it's never been the same. Number 5 is Naples Park. Absolutely one of the most ridiculous real estate markets in the entire state of Florida. North Naples had hurricane storm surge damage, and it also has some of the worst traffic congestion you could ever think is possible. But for just over $2 million, you can get a new home on a tiny 6,000 square foot lot. That just makes perfect sense. The people who bought many years ago, congratulations to you. But the people that are paying these new ridiculous prices have to be complete morons. Number 6 is San Carlos Park, Florida. This was kind of like an outskirt suburb to Fort Myers that has a lot of crime and a lot of problems. As you can see, this house here is $600,000 and it's actually has how many bathrooms? 6 bathrooms. Can you imagine how many people they were stuffing into that house if they had 6 bathrooms? Less than 1,000 square feet, but 6 bathrooms. and 6 police cars outside. This is kind of like what Lil Wayne was referring to when he said he could poop all day because his house had 10 bathrooms. I just hope his house was bigger than 1,000 square feet. How is that even possible? You just open the front door of the house and there's a toilet right there or something? Like, how's that even work? How's that show and go down? Like, oh, here's the tenants. You know, they've been here illegally for 6 years. He's Juan. He's Juan. He's Juan Diego, and he's Juan Diego Guadalupe. And here's don't forget about Guadalupe Juan Diego, and then Diego Guadalupe San Juan Guadalupe. And of course, don't forget in the 6th bathroom in the back, there's Juan Diego Guadalupe. He lives in that last bathroom with his son Guadalupe. But hey, let's say you don't want to live with La Familia for $650,000. You can get a brand new house right next to La Familia. I know some of my white subscribers are at home cracking up right now, but they won't leave a comment. They're just too embarrassed. Like, we'll laugh, but we won't comment. I'm not losing my job over a YouTube comment, Jose. It's funny, but I just gotta pretend like I didn't laugh at home because of my job. Number 7 is Golden Gate, aka the Golden Ghetto. Es el ghetto, mira como le meto. I really feel like if my housing budget was nearly $700,000, Golden Gate wouldn't be my first option. The city has come a long way from what it was many years back, but recently on the news there was a shootout and robbery gone wrong at 6 in the morning, so there's still a lot of crime in the city. It's definitely a market that's overpriced, and I wouldn't feel comfortable buying a house in Golden Gate City for the current prices. The place still has a lot of poverty, a lot of crime, and the home prices simply don't make any sense. It's really abusive what poor people in South Florida have to pay to live in their communities. You're paying luxury prices for neighborhoods that are subpar, borderline dangerous. I'm not talking down on Golden Gate City. I would live there, but not at these prices. Just kidding, I wouldn't live there. Oh, I'm funny, man. I really am. Number 8 is Tampa, Florida. Now, I don't know what caused these New Yorkers to think that Tampa, Florida was a place you should move to, but they moved there by the millions, and now there's millions of New Yorkers, most of them are realtors, and they all live in Tampa, and it's really gone to crap since the real estate prices went up and the realtors moved in. Now, for $500,000 roughly, you can buy a house built in like the early 1900s, a small house, right across from the Robles Park housing projects. Lovely. But let's say that's the ops territory and you belong to a different gang and you just can't live in that hood. For just over $300,000, you can get a nice little house with your neighbor's house literally stacked on top of your house in freaking Sulphur Springs. Hey, if you need hookers or hey, if you're addicted, you don't even have to walk to the corner store. The corner store will walk right past your house every 5 or 10 minutes. Hey, you could just scream at your neighbor like, hey, buddy, hey, across the street. You got that work? All right, let's do it. But of course, you don't want to yell too loud because you don't want the other dealer on the other side of the street to see that he's losing business and for your neighbors to have a shootout over you. That dog could write a book about its life in Tampa. Number 9 is Arcadia, Florida. Now, I don't know what these people are thinking with the prices of real estate in this small town. The town really actually sucks. It's got a lot of crime. It's got a lot of gangs. There's not a lot of opportunity, but the real estate prices are absolutely insane. People are paying nearly $400,000 for a small home in this country little ghetto town, and about $20 for a pack of weed. That's probably mostly tobacco at this point. And despite the town having a lot of diversity, people are telling me that it's a really racist place to live. There's really not a lot of opportunity in this town unless you're selling tobacco, weed. Many people just try to be self-employed because of the lack of opportunity, but they find that the good old boys want to keep everybody out who isn't one of their homies. The Mennonites and Amish told me that if anybody tries to go up in their hood, they're really with it. Imagine having an Amish Mennonite gang member next door coming up to your house like, hey Holmes, hey, why you on your cell phone, fool? And then the other neighbor's like, hey dawg, I got some boozy weed, dawg. And then your other neighbor's like, We're going to fail your inspection for a business license because you're a dang minority and, well, you're not part of the good old boys, so we don't give a crap about your business. As far as I'm concerned, they ought to be giving people a discount for moving to Arcadia, not an upcharge. Could you imagine meeting your neighbors when you move into your house in Arcadia? Shake your neighbor's hand like, hey, I'm Larry and I'm a racist. Well, I noticed you had your grandkids come over the other day and, well, we're disappointed. Alright everybody, and number 10, the last place in Florida that is ridiculously overpriced is Spring Hill, Florida. Now, Spring Hill is mostly residential. There's not a lot of business, there's not a lot of commercial, and the prices here keep going up despite the fact your house can literally end up swallowed by a sinkhole. Here's another city that New Yorkers move to in large numbers. It's kind of like a suburb to Tampa. The real estate prices here are ridiculous. The drug overdose rates are some of the highest in the entire state of Florida. There's really no future for the youth here. This town is really miserable. There's no real beaches here, it's just a coastline. It's very depressing. But well, the reason it's on our list is because the prices that people are paying to live in Spring Hill simply don't make any sense. It's too expensive. It should be an affordable place to live because it really isn't that attractive. It has literally nothing to offer. It's depressing. It's drug ridden. A lot of the older businesses are just run down. There's not a lot of opportunity here. If you want to live here, you need most likely a considerable commute to Tampa. And while there's closer suburbs that are just so much better and have so much more to offer, Spring Hill really is a depressing place. And when I see the real estate prices, they really don't make sense. Now, it's a lot more affordable than the rest of Tampa, but I really don't understand the hesitation of living in a place that's so far, so crappy, and still the real estate prices are just not logical for the place. So I think Spring Hill is a market where we're going to see a lot of price reductions. It's really a sad place, and I think in the future it's going to turn into a really bad area. It's already in the region of Florida with the highest drug overdose rates, and there's no reason to believe that the people living here are simply not happy. I wouldn't pay more than $120,000 to live in one of these older rundown neighborhoods, and the houses are going for nearly twice that. And while that might seem affordable for Florida, again, if you live in Florida, you want to be close to beaches and things to do. Who wants to move to Florida and then end up in Spring Hill? And yet it just simply has a bad, dirty aspect, even though they're popping new houses in left and right. Alright guys, so that is today's list. I hope you guys liked it. A very informative video on 10 real estate markets in Florida that I think are definitely heading in the wrong direction. I think in the future, Spring Hill, if we ran into an economical downturn, a lot of these houses are going to be empty, with squatters moving in, trashing the houses. I feel like in the future, a lot of these houses could end up boarded up. I just don't see how this place could possibly get better. It just seems like the type of place that would only get worse.